Hey all, today I'm going to be showing you how I metal leafed my speedometer, fuel gauge, and temperature gauge for my 1964 Galaxie. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to try and explain as best as I can how to metal leaf something and how I got this effect for my gauges. Okay, so first things first, let's go over materials. You're going to need a type of glue that's used for gilding that's called size. So this is what I use. I use the One Shot Fast Dry Gold size. I like this size because, just like it says in the name, it's fast dry. You can get some size that can take days, or not days, but a day or more before it's ready to be tacked up. The second thing that you're going to need is your metal leaf. So this is one way that you can get your leaf. You can buy what's called transfer leaf, where it comes on this little piece of paper where it kind of sticks to it. This makes leafing so much easier, especially if you're new to leafing. This is what leaf looks like as what's called loose leaf, so not transfer leaf. You can see how delicate that is, how easy you can destroy that. And lastly, the final supply that you're going to need is a way to transfer the size to the object that you're working with. So you can use all sorts of things to do that, but I just prefer a brush like this one. My Gray Quinn number 4 Mac is a good one that I use because I can get this brush to not hold very much size, which is super important because you want size to go on very thin. I would like to try to airbrush it one day, which is an option, but I just haven't done that yet. So yeah, just pick a brush that you have good control over, that is not going to glob it on, because as thin as you can get it, the better. That's really key. Okay, so in this clip that you're about to see right here, what I'm doing is just quickly making a tracing of the numbers and the letters and stuff on my gauges. So if you're doing something like I'm doing, where you're actually covering up a surface that you're then going to need to go back and paint that font or verbiage or whatever back on this object, that is something that you would do. If not, then just skip that part. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is to make sure that you clean your surface well. You can use grease and wax remover, you can use Windex, you can use alcohol. Basically, you just want to make sure that you get the surface free of any debris, any dust, that sort of thing, because I just showed you, how fragile leaf is, and it will show any impurity underneath it if you have something stuck to your object. So just make sure that it is super clean. Okay, so in this video right here, I had actually never looked up the tech data sheet before for One Shot Fast Dry Gold size, which I should have, because it actually very specifically says not to stir it. But I had never read that before. But recently I decided to look up the tech data sheet, and don't stir it. It says not to, so don't. Okay, so a few things about this clip right here that I wanted to say. One, don't do it on a blanket or a towel like I have in that video. I say in that video that it's not ideal. For such a small piece like that, I can easily lift it while applying the size and keep contaminants out of it. But if you're using something big, you obviously want a super clean space where you can just control. And the second thing that we want to look at here is having a practice board. I feel like that is such a huge deal, to have a separate item there that you can apply the size to, and use it as the object that tells you when your size is ready. So basically what I do is I lay the size down on that metal board that has some really crappy pinstriping on it, and then I lay the size down on my object. And what I do is, when an hour has passed and I'm ready to check and see if the size is ready, I am going to check the board, not my object, because if it's not ready and you put a fingerprint in it or you put a smudge in it or whatever, you don't want that then to come through and show on your final project. So have another item laying around that you can use to like test. So what I was doing right there is just simply writing down the time. It was 4:56 that day, so I knew not to lay down my leaf any sooner than 5:56. You can just take a screenshot of your phone, you can set a timer, whatever you need to do, but things are also going to vary depending on the temperature, the humidity, that kind of stuff, where you're doing your project. But I was doing it in my house. My air conditioning worked at that time, so it was 71 in the house. So an hour was spot on for that. Again, if you're wondering, well, how I know, that's again why you use that test panel or that practice panel, because if you want to go in before the hour mark and feel your size to see if it's ready, you can do that without fear of messing anything up, because you're not touching your actual project. So at this time I was using a different brush than what I just told you is nice to use. It's a MAC number 8. So can be a little thick, so it's preference really. One thing that's super nice about using these gauges is that, as you can see, the size is a little bit of a gold yellow color, but for the most part it's translucent. So depending on what your object is, if you're going to have a hard time seeing the size to make sure that you have every area covered, then you can add a tiny little bit of a colored one shot if you want to make it more visible. But luckily on the gauge here I'm looking at in the video, it was very easy to see, so that was good to make sure that we have really full, really even, really thin coverage. So here I'm just leveling it out. One Shot Fast Dry Gold Size actually has really great self-leveling properties, but you don't want any runs, gooey, big, thick pieces that is just going to be really hard on you later. You'll see in this clip here that there's some things in the size that look like dust. That is actually not dust in the size, that's pitting in that part. Since it is an old piece, it does have some pitting. But when you're sizing down on a new part or a part that shouldn't have anything like that, you would want to be really cautious and make sure that you don't see anything like that, because it could be dust or debris or whatever, and you don't want that in your leafing. But in this particular case, that these gauges are super clean. That is in fact just pitting in the middle. Okay, so right here in this part of the video is the finger test. So this is why I like to have a separate panel that I'm working with to do this finger test with, because you don't want to do that to your actual piece that you're working with. So if you listen in the video, you're going to hear a sound coming from my finger that lets you know that the glue is still sticky to the point where it's coming off on my skin. So there's pretty much 2 ways that people tell you to know that your sizing is ready for the leaf to be applied, and one is that it squeaks when you run your knuckle across it, versus like that tacky, it would be more of like a squeak. And then secondly, the way that I think is super easy is that if you touch it like that and you get sticky glue on your finger, it's not ready. Sizing can be just about completely dry, and that's when it accepts the leaf the best. So if you touch it and your finger gets sticky, it's too soon. Don't do it yet. This is leaf that's been tacking for 45 minutes.
that 45-minute mark, and really even sooner, the size is going to become very sticky instead of wet, and that's when you may confuse it with being ready, and it's not. So that tack sound that you hear is not the one that you want. You want it to literally squeak.
The readiness of the size is hands down the most important part of metal leafing. If you lay your leaf on too soon, the edges of where one sheet ends and the next one starts won't blend together. If you wait till the right moment, they'll create a seamless look. If you don't wait long enough, your leaf can become very wrinkly, and you don't have the opportunity to get those wrinkles out without the leaf just breaking. But if you wait till the right time, then you can smooth nearly every wrinkle out. And thirdly, if you don't wait the correct amount of time and you plan on engine turning your leaf, then forget it. If you put your leaf on size that is not ready, you're gonna have a lot of problems, and just engine turning will be pretty much not possible. Well, it's possible, but it's gonna look really bad. So here we're finally laying some leaf in this video right here. So you can see when I move it, it looks like it has a ton of dust in it. Again, that's pitting. If your part is what you think is clean and it looks like that and it doesn't have pits in it, and that is in fact dust or debris or anything like that, I would wipe the size off while it's still able to be wiped off, and go again. So here I cut this piece of leaf so that I could fit it under this tack. I actually, when I did the second gauge off camera, I actually just cut a hole in the middle of the leaf and was able to use one sheet. I was able to slide it over that tack. But again, if you're working on a project that is gonna be a little more difficult, like this one here where you're working around parts and that sort of thing, having transfer leaf instead of loose leaf is great, because trying to cut leaf that is not on transfer paper is very difficult. So keep that in mind based off what your project is, that transfer leaf might be the way to go for you. So here we can see that when the leaf was laid, it naturally creates some wrinkles in it. If you go to push your wrinkles out with your finger and your leaf rips, you waited, or you didn't wait long enough.
I could have waited a little bit longer, though the wrinkles did push out easily. The fact that it had so many wrinkles when laying down shows me that I could have waited a little bit longer, and it would have adhered nicer from the beginning. That definitely could have been better.
So here I was contemplating putting the next piece directly under the tack, which I easily could have done with transfer leaf, but this was my first time using transfer leaf, so I was not super confident yet with using it. But the main kind of thing that we want to look at here is when laying your next piece, you want to overlap the first piece just a hair, so that you don't miss any space in between, and the part that is overlapped will just dust off when you do your dusting at the end. So now I'm about to pull that off, and as you can see there, when the size is at the right tackiness, you can just gently pull on that seam until two pieces appear to become one, of course depending on your pattern and how you line that up and everything. Like I said earlier, the next gauge that I did, I just used one solid piece with a small hole in the middle of it and was able to just wiggle it around that tack, which made for a better looking final product. I unfortunately didn't film that, but
I actually did film it. I just didn't realize that I had footage of it. So just super quickly, I'm just showing you how much nicer it can lay. I believe I had let this size cure a little bit longer in this video, and then also the bigger the pieces that you can use, the better if you're using a variegated leaf.
So again, not to sound like I'm, beating a dead horse here, but when the size is at the right tackiness, even as fragile as leaf is, you can see that I'm pushing it into that crevice or that corner or lip there or whatever, and it's not breaking. If your tack is, or if your size is not at the right openness, it's just going to rip to shreds there. Right here, what I'm doing is a piece of leaf did not adhere well. I know the filming is horrible, but what I did is I just took a little tiny piece and can just go over it. Sometimes at the end, I'll just take a piece on my finger and literally just run over the whole thing, and anything that got missed or just didn't adhere well, that leaf will just stick to anything that you missed, fill in any sort of little hole you have, and will just become one with the rest of it, and you'll never even know that you potentially missed a spot or whatever the situation was there. Now what I'm doing in this portion of the video is removing the excess leaf. So there's several ways that you can do this. Some people like to use cotton. I had never used cotton before, but I was using it in this part to try it for the first time. Cotton's a little bit annoying if you ask me, just because it's just so kind of like doing its own thing, being cottony and like flying everywhere and that sort of thing. I just use my finger. I know a lot of people use like brushes and stuff that's specifically made for leafing, but I just really prefer to just use my finger. It works good for me. I was not enjoying this little cotton ball moment that I was having. Size is nice and good and at the place that it needs to be. You don't have to be super gentle. I mean, obviously you don't want to be like rough, but using your finger is perfectly fine for me anyway. You know, everybody does everything different. Okay, so I actually did film the speedometer, same thing. Laid my sizing down as thin as possible, making sure not to miss any spots. Waited until it was the right tackiness. Applied the leaf in nice big sheets. Rubbed out the wrinkles that I wanted to rub out, left some because I do like a little bit of a wrinkle effect. Put on another one, making sure to overlap. Rubbed down what I wanted to rub out, left what I wanted to leave. And then I didn't film dusting it off for whatever reason. So if you've applied your size, applied your leaf, brushed off your excess, and now you're ready to spin your leaf if that's something you want to do. I actually don't have any footage of that because I didn't want to do that on this particular project. But again, if you've let your size get to the right openness and get to the right level, then your engine turning is going to be a breeze. You're going to have a great time. It's going to be lovely. If you start to engine turn and you thought that putting the leaf on went okay, but turning is not going well, that lets you know that you didn't get to the right level with your size. Even if you think, well, the size went on pretty decent, or the leaf went on pretty decent, if it's not turning well, then you could have waited. It could have been a better experience. So if you plan on engine turning, your size has to be at that perfect readiness where it doesn't stick to your finger. Okay, y'all, so that's really all I can think of. Oh, wait. Do you need to clear your leaf? No, if no one's ever going to touch it. So for my situation, since I did a gauge and then a glass piece goes over it and that sort of thing, it doesn't need to be cleared or sealed or anything like that, because without people touching it or it being in the elements or anything, it's not going to tarnish or break or anything like that. In other situations, you will want to clear it, like on a motorcycle tank or a car or something like that. For small projects that I don't want to take outside and get the gun ready and clear coat it, I will use this metal leaf sealer that I got from Hobby Lobby for $5.99, and you can just pour some in a little bowl and get you a brush and just very, very, very lightly put it on. You don't want to scratch the leaves. Leaf is very vulnerable to scratches. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a like and a follow if you don't mind. That helps me out. And thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.